Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the end of the Case of the Mondays. Today's Monday is finally done, and to all my peoples out there, just want to give you a cheers. This right here is one of the most refreshing things at the end of a nice toasty day. It's really, really nice. As a matter of fact, the wife and I, we used to love these things. We used to brown bag these things down in San Diego when we used to live down in the city. We used to brown bag about sunset, and it was just one of the greatest experiences ever. Anyways, I want to talk about a few things I think that all Americans, we should be a little informed on. Maybe we should have a discussion about some of these things, and definitely think it's about time that everyone's opinion is valued, and we share these opinions rather than joust with them. So here's a few things I want to talk about today. On the 23rd of August is one of the big headlines is today was Andrew Cuomo's last day in office. You know, he apparently he's got a dog that he's trying to find someone to adopt, and he's also got some other issues. We'll talk about that one in a second. Arizona, but wait, there's more. Just stay tuned for that. Apparently, Arizona is got a COVID delay. We can get a little more into that one. A little bit more on something that I talked about earlier, which was Larry Elder, and the LA Times, which disgusting. We'll get into that one, and maybe I'll touch a little bit about Afghanistan and why it's not just the conversation of some people in America. This needs to be a conversation for all Americans, because whether or not you agree with this war or disagree with it, we all have some interest in stake here, and we all need to be accountable for what's gone on in this past 20 years. So, all right, well, let me wait for this truck to drive by. It's an old Ford. All right, so let's talk about Andrew Cuomo. Well, Cuomo, he was one of these guys that really had some exposure done on him. And I think that exposure came down from when COVID was first acknowledged and first touched by the Trump administration last year. He was granted all sorts of authorities and all sorts of overreaching powers he could have done. But one of the most brilliant things he did was he passed the buck on to each governor of each state. And while we can all argue about whether that's good or bad, I personally believe that that's the right thing to do. The reason why it's the right thing to do is because I don't believe that the federal government can make one standard, especially during emergency times, that apply to a demographic in Nebraska as the same thing in Seattle, Washington, or Los Angeles, or Dallas, Texas. So I thought it was a good thing that the pressure was put on the shoulders of our governors to be able to use the federal government as some sort of a supply line or supply chain and be able to get all the things that they wanted. Well, Cuomo had a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of things that he did wrong, and there's a lot of things that our president did wrong, especially in hindsight now. But there were some things that lined up for Cuomo. He was definitely part of the "fuck Trump" campaign, the "fuck Trump" cult. It's dying out now, but if everyone remembers, 1 + 2 = fuck Trump. E = MC fuck Trump squared. Anything that could be masked, could be disingenuously scapegoated in the name of fuck Trump, people let it happen. You talk about politicians not doing their job. You had politicians just sit there and watching their cities and their states burn. And they did it not because it was the right or wrong thing to do. They did it because they knew that they were going to be able to have some image that they were some slayer of the Trump movement. And so therefore, they get fuck Trump, credits or whatnot. But back to the Andrew Cuomo thing, Andrew Cuomo really screwed up. He made some decisions, some executive orders, which, and this is something that I think all Americans should look into and have an opinion on. Were these deaths due to the former governor's executive orders and decisions? And I personally think they do. I've been talking about this since last year. And I definitely think that in times of leadership, leadership is consequential. The burden of command is real, and you have to be accountable for the decisions that you make because they're very consequential. And so, as we're seeing in this country, there's a lot of fractures and things that have been exposed over the past year and a half about this country. So, I definitely think Andrew Coumo, he made the bed that he laid in. He definitely made the bed that he laid in, and he also made the bed for tens and thousands of others. And I personally think that he should be held accountable. He should be held accountable for the incorrect decisions or the decisions that led to either neglect or led to mismanagement, which ultimately led to a lot of people dying, because of his decisions and his direction that he gave. So there's some other things that happened. I do know that, his office got word last summer, right before he was about to release his book, and also right before the election, and right before he won the Emmy, he got an Emmy on he got some sort of entertainment award, for being a governor, that was a really bad governor. But anyways, what happened was that he had his assistants cook the books and change some numbers on some things like nursing home deaths and whatnot. The truth is out there. I recommend every American take a look at it, watch it, listen to it, form your own opinion, and share that opinion, because misinformation is something that our government loves to do. And with that said, I really feel that Andrew Coumo got off light. He really got off easy. And if these politicians wanted to do the right thing, I'm not saying what's right for their own personal interests or their party, but if they wanted to do the at root right thing, they would investigate this former governor, and they would investigate the conspiracy that has happened, because this guy is trying to brush a bunch of bad decisions that he made underneath the fuck Trump rug. And you got to remember, this is a governor that was talking about last year or the year before that if our president wanted to return to New York City, that he's not going to come out alive, and he better bring an army with him. It's pretty bad. It just seems that there's a consensus of undermining authority, and now all of a sudden that the undermining has worked. Now all of a sudden they want people to just get down and obey authority again. Well, you can't unwoke people. And I think that here in America, we're starting to build up, a certain amount of frustrations and shared suffering. And I think there's a lot of us that we're over it. We're done. So, I don't want to take anything away from these women who, whether they were coerced to come forward with their stories or whether, their stories were exploited, which is what I think happened with, a bunch of these 11 women. I personally think that this was done for political reasons, that these women, the government doesn't really care about them. What the government cares about is being able to exploit their stories and use them to provide a cover-up for political reasons. And I think that's at the root of this whole Coumo thing. Sorry, that truck. But yeah, I'm very, very convinced that this guy is, he got a sweet deal. He was able to walk and resign, and he's not facing any investigation. As a matter of fact, the investigation that was started last year under the previous administration, this administration, the Biden administration, or his DOJ, Merrick Garland, which has just been the biggest disappointment ever. Talk about a guy who everyone felt bad that, he got robbed of a Supreme Court pick. Well, I'll tell you what, now that I see the way that this guy's conducting himself as Attorney General for the DOJ and the way that he's conducting his operations, you know what? Someone's got their thumb up his ass, and they are moving the puppet around. And it's unfortunate because what that really shows is it shows a lack of courage, and it shows cowardice, and it shows that this guy is not here to actually do what's right for the people. He's here to do what he thinks is right for the state, and it's wrong. It's a big disappointment out of Biden's cabinet pick. But anyways, long story short, yes, Coumo was being investigated. He's not being investigated anymore by the DOJ, and now it's kind of all eyes on New York and the Senate. And are they gonna continue this investigation to him? So enough with Coumo. I still think he's a slime ball, and I think that this is more of a referendum on some of the leadership that's going on in this country. That maybe the times are changing, and maybe the lies, and maybe the public trust that Americans used to have, there was a certain amount of lying that Americans could take from politicians, because we had a certain amount of public trust that even through your bullshit and your lies, there was a certain amount of that we trusted that you were doing this in the best interest of the country and the nation and what's right. And not anymore. The bullshit flag's been pulled. So yeah. So enough with Coumo. He's a scumbag, like I said before. Let's go and move on over to Arizona. So I'm not going to mention what's going on in Arizona because I don't want to stir up any type of, I'm sure I'm getting flagged already, but everyone knows what's going on in Arizona. And if you don't, I would entice my fellow Americans to maybe just go on to your Google search and type in Maricopa County latest news. And what you'll get if you do that is you'll see something that's being put on the national, it's being put on the national spotlight. And we were all expecting at least a preliminary report, but we're not getting that preliminary report yet because apparently due to the COVID has apparently infected or caused a delay in some of the key auditors for a certain company that's auditing, doing the forensic audit, has prevented them from being able to testify and be able to be witnesses for this report. So it's supposed to be delayed a week, maybe. I could be wrong, but another thing, go check out what's going on in Arizona, because whether you think it's BS or not, it's really happening, and I think that we all owe it to ourselves and our country to take a look at it. So the next thing I'm going to get to is Larry Elder. And what I won't get to at the moment is the recall election, because that's going to take a whole 20, 30, 40-minute block on my own. But, once again, I really think that it's a really disgusting thing, highly disrespectful, very uncalled for, and such a unpatriotic thing to treat someone like Larry Elder in the manner which this failing aristocracy of power in California is treating him like. I mean, how dare anyone sit there and try to put a black man down that has come from South Central LA? How dare you? That is so disgusting. That is it's so 100 years ago. I mean, who the hell do you think you are, LA Times? Who the hell has granted you the whip of racism to say, oh, it's okay for me to be a bigot and a racist, and it's okay for me to whip the black man down that's coming up from South Central LA? Because you know what? It's not just him. Guess what? This is called America. And you know what? This is how Americans come up, and this is how Americans turn into leaders. And it's really disgusting that you would whip the whip of racism and say, oh, this black man, he's not really black. You know what? F off. F off. You're disgusting. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You are a low-class tabloid is what you are. And you know where you belong? You belong at the 99-cent store in the checkout aisle is where you belong. That is disgusting. And for any and every American, that looks at California and ask yourself what's happened to Southern California, what's happened to California, this is what's happened. These jerk-offs are more concerned about scaring people and not respecting someone as, hey, guess what? You know what? This is a local black man that has worked from the ground up, and you know what? He has a story of success. Yeah. Instead of that, they're more concerned about losing their political power, and they're more concerned about scaring people into not voting for something, not voting for a recall, and that's all they care about. They don't care about what's right or wrong. The LA Times doesn't care about what's right or wrong, because if they did, then maybe they would have chosen the words a little bit better. But how dare you? That is disgusting. You know, you, the LA Times, should hold yourself to some sort of higher standard. Some sort of higher standard. Shame on you. It's fucking disgusting. Excuse my American French here. I happen to be a native of Southern Californian. Same thing with my mom. Same thing with my sisters. Both of my sisters live in LA. And you know what? It is so unbecoming. It is such a conflict and such a misrepresentation and such a low class, low standard, way to conduct yourself as a journalist. You know, how disgusting is it of you to put some opinionated article about a black man from South Central Los Angeles? You obviously have no pride. You have no type of integrity, and you have no sense of any type of local cohesion, local camaraderie, local anything. You could give a shit less whether he's a black man that is running for governor. That doesn't matter to you now. All that matters now is you scare people into saying that black man's really not black. He's working for the white supremacists. Fuck off. Fuck off. You know what? That's such garbage. And you know what? You, the LA Times, you know, the columnist that wrote this crap, you are American trash. You're American trash, and there's just no other way around it. So you know what? My best advice for you, from one American to another, unfuck yourself. And you know what? Maybe apologize. Maybe apologize to the viewers and the listeners and the readers that actually trust you to portray and regurgitate something. But that is disgusting. That is so un-Californian and un-American. And you know what? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Shame on you. It's disgusting. You know, for anyone that read that is not from Southern California, I apologize as a Southern Californian. That is so disgusting. And you know what? Do it again. Do it again. And you know what? I'm gonna start asking more Southern Californians on what they think about this trash ass wannabe, disgusting form of opinionated journalism that you're using, not because it's truly your opinion, it's because you know you're gonna scare people into voting for not recalling. So you know what? You know, stop it. Stop it. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Makes me so mad. You know, it's so disgusting. You know, and there are things about this state that I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of the things that made this state very great. Conservative values, things like art and music and entertainment, what Hollywood used to be. You know, and you know what? 20 years ago, if there was a black man like this running for governor, running against Gray Davis, guess what? It would have been celebrated. But guess what? Not even his skin. You're taking away the man's skin color, and and it's just disgusting. Pisses me off. Well, last thing I want to talk about. You know, I'm not going to get into much of it, but I want to talk about Afghanistan. You know, and I entice every single American to take the 12, 15 minutes, however long it was, out of your time of day, whether you cared about this war on terror, whether you didn't, whether you opposed it, whether you were for it, whether you fought in it, whether you didn't, whether you never went to Afghanistan, but maybe you went to Iraq or Syria, or maybe you only spent time in Afghanistan, or whatever. You know, every American needs to hear what the president said. You know, and while we can all pick it apart and you know, one side would be like, oh, yeah, he lied about this, he lied about that, but I don't really want to be completely honest about the things he didn't lie about. Where then the other side is like, oh, no, there's nothing else you could have done to do this better. Well, I think that there's a lot of truth and there's a lot of lies, you know, in the statement, but it's important for all Americans to listen to what the president says about ending this war. And the most important thing that we all need to take from it is the war's over. It's over. And, for all the veterans that are out there that did or didn't fight, and for all the people that have skin in this game and have sacrificed in any sense whatsoever, given, supported, not supported, against, for, the war's over. The war's over, and I respect that. I respect that. This president, no matter what I disagree with, which there's plenty of lies and there's plenty of lack of accountability in his statement, I really appreciate and respect the fact that I could see the honesty when he said, I'm not going to pass this to a fifth president. And so, with that said, it may not be the way that America likes it, and it may not be especially the way that anyone that has ever sacrificed or had to suffer or has endured, a legacy and a life of, continued obedience to what's going on in this war and terror. I got to tell everyone, man, the war is over. The war is over, and I want to make sure that maybe ending this war lessons were not learned, but there's something important that we need to learn from this. And the most important thing that we need to learn now is that if you know a veteran, if you know someone that has had skin in this game, if you know someone that is invested into this, please tell them welcome home. Please let them know that they're welcomed home. We're so thankful for any sacrifices that were given. Now is not the time to question whether or not it was for anything or everything, but for all of us or all of you veterans, we need you. We're going to need your leadership in this country. And, the war's over, but, fuck, man, we need some fucking leadership in this country because it's lacking and it shows. And it is so apparent, the lack of leadership. We could take, it is just so thick and just needing of leadership. We could take a dull butter knife and cut it in the air, so to all of my fellow vets, welcome home. The war's over, and fuck, brothers and sisters, we need your leadership at home, man. We need it. Please, if you know a veteran, just welcome them home and just trust their leadership, man, because this is the only thing that we're going to be able to get out of this war, are these greatest Americans, the greatest of our generation. These guys are home from the war. The war's over, and we need you, brothers and sisters. All right, we'll talk tomorrow. All right, please leave me any type of feedback on how bad I suck or something I can do better. Thank you.